right, welcome back to BBB Sharing. We are here once again in the Ignite podcast studio. I'm Evie, director of Ignite, sparked by BBB. We have our lovely Nicole here with us. She's training yet again, so she might pop in and ask a few questions if she's curious. And of course, our lovely guest today is Brooke Hall, from Accent Professional Recruiting.
Yes, I am the owner of Accent.
Yes, you are. And Brooke, I've known you for what, about a year now?
I think maybe a little longer, probably 2 years.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Probably
I think we did a couple of. I've spoken at a couple of the Ignite things twice.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's a new year. Happy New Year, everyone. 2026. And I think starting off the new year, being able to talk to you is really important because it's new beginnings, a new start for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And with you doing recruiting, a lot of people are either looking for new roles right now or just joining the workforce.
Right.
So tell me about Accent Recruiting.
Okay, so I'll give that story first and then we'll get into what trends I'm seeing.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Accent has actually been in business since 1975.
Really?
Yes, and obviously I did not start that because I'm 50. I'm not afraid to tell my age, but Accent used to be called Accent Personnel, which makes me laugh because that's just such a dated,
Right.
And so my former mentor, her name was Angie Furby. She bought the company in 2001. At that point, changed it to Accent Professional Recruiting. And she also decided to focus solely on sales and marketing at that point. So we'll fast forward till they placed me in my first sales role at Xerox many moons ago. And then I joined the team in 2010.
Wow.
Then we'll fast forward. I bought the company in 2019. So I have been recruiting in this market since 2010. So 16 years. And then I kept the company pretty much the same up until the pandemic. Sales and marketing was really our focus and some C-level management across the United States. So we don't recruit just local. I mean, my clients range from small local Richmond-based companies all the way up to Fortune 100. So it keeps it really entertaining. But during the pandemic, I had a team of great recruiters at that point that really didn't care if they ever talked to another salesperson again. I'll be honest. They were like, "Oh, we want to do other stuff."
Yeah.
And so we, quick story, we recruited heavily in the packaging and still do the packaging and supply chain space. Obviously, that boomed during the pandemic. And we had a couple clients that said, "Hey, you're great at finding salespeople. Can you find customer service? Could you find finance? Could you find accounting?" And we were in engineering, and we realized we were really good at it. So currently to date, we recruit across the country for a variety of positions or disciplines. The only thing I really don't do is IT recruiting.
Okay.
So sales is still my bread and butter, but we can do a lot of other things. But what I'd like to highlight is that sounds like we do a lot, and we do, but I like to think of it in the four major industries, and this is what we focus, but it's not limited to, right? And that's construction, with building products, and I'll include trades in that. So we're doing a lot of trade work because that is hard to find. And then we do packaging and supply chain, facility services, and industrial manufacturing. So those are the four main, like if you were to look at my current job roles right now, besides a couple of one-offs, that's the majority. Now, on the IT space, we don't do anything except software sales, anything with sales. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of friends that do it. It's not my cup of tea. And so I need to get rid of
space.
It's competitive. And let's face it, most IT people are not going to want to talk to me. Like, who is this girl? I mean, if you don't know what you don't know,
right.
Xerox was about as IT as I got. And I met my husband there, and that's about only the good thing that happened. So here we are. So yes, so that is Accent in the whole. Any question? I mean, that was a lot.
That was great because it kind of led me into like asking further questions about a lot of the trends that we see nowadays. Everybody's on TikTok, Instagram Reels, all this stuff. Everybody's complaining about how, unemployment is so bad right now because people are getting fired or laid off left and right. I think the reality of that has a lot to do with the actual jobs themselves,
right,
and not so much the employee market. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more about this than I actually do. But IT has been a really, really difficult one. I've noticed a lot of IT.
A lot of IT layoffs. So I was glad I'm not in that space from that perspective, because there has been a ton of IT layoffs. So I can't speak to that directly. The federal government layoffs has thrown some curveballs
Yeah,
in there
something's off
because,
course.
and it's funny because I get a lot of referrals from people from the federal government and they have so many transferable skills, but it is really, they also come with their fair share of challenges. They have great benefits. They have, and a lot of private sector do not, they don't
Right.
see that. So that's been interesting. But what I'm seeing right now, I mean, since the pandemic, honestly, I feel like the market has just been up
Oh, yeah,
and down,
like
up and down.
whoopsie-daisy all the
It's like you
time.
just don't know. And up until I'd say about the third quarter of this year, it was really hard to get candidates to return your calls. So like back in the heyday of recruiting, you could post something on LinkedIn or you could email 20 people and 19 were going to get back to you. Crickets. So I think what we've had to do as recruiters have had to get really creative because they are being hit every which way by 25 recruiters, HR managers, and people are tired of it. People turned off their LinkedIn. I mean, I've turned off my LinkedIn notifications because you're always being sold to. So I feel like we have gone back on the candidate side to what I did in 2010, which was the old fashioned pick up the phone and call.
I
And
agree.
but with what we do, I'm getting a lot of referrals, Abby. And that's what I like. So like let's say a company comes to me and says, "Hey, I need an electrician." And so I'm gonna call all the electricians I know and ask for the referrals because you'll hear companies get very frustrated. They post something online, they get 100 applicants and not one of them is qualified.
Right.
And so we take more of the headhunting approach, if you will. I very rarely will do a posting, because I don't have time to go through all of that either. Even though they might be some great candidates, they're not a fit for what I need.
Right.
And so really it's more, you give me what you're looking for and we go out and find the candidates. So, but I do feel like candidates more and more over the break, I got a lot of, "Hey, I'm in the market confidentially." So I feel like people were quietly quitting, I think you probably heard that for a while. And then people are like, "What's going on with the economy? I'm going to stay put." I feel like people are a little, on the candidate side, are a little more apt to talk at least now. On the client side, it's been interesting. Last year started very gangbusters, like, "Oh, we're gonna hire." Then, no, 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 we're not, and so first quarter, first 2 months, like it looked like 2025 was great. Then, no, 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 it was not. I think, whether it's tariff, not political stuff, but that's probably what caused a lot of it. And so what we saw was a lot of color companies saying, "Oh, if you see somebody that looks good, Brooke, send them my way." But I'm not gonna, or we decided to put this on hold until the fourth quarter. But I will tell you that this is just one thing I can tell you is that normally it is dead, crickets in December on the recruiting side from a client perspective. Like they're trying to figure out budgets and all of that. I had 5 new client meetings, local Richmond companies between December 19th and December 23rd, which I normally don't work on after December 19th, So I was like, but I'm not going to turn these people away. So to me, that is a cautiously optimistic from a client that there's going to be some hiring
Right.
going on. So, I mean, we can't continue like this because it's been so, I mean, they just have not been a lot of hiring.
I've noticed that. I've noticed that there have been a lot of people that have been laid off from big companies.
A lot of big
A
companies.
lot of the big, we're like Microsoft
Yep.
and like Google, like all these big companies.
Exactly.
Like massive
Yep.
layoffs. And so how have you noticed that that's been affecting like the local area or even like nationally, like candidates that you're seeing, like what are they looking for? Are they looking for like role transitions or like a job transition? Because they have specific like skills.
They do. And so I think a lot of the people, the big companies have been laying off. So the companies that I had meetings with were all small to mid-sized.
Right.
Okay. So we still have a lot of large clients. But all of them, a lot of large companies that I don't know if y'all knew this, but they typically will do a lot of layoffs. The last two months of the year, like get rid of, especially on the sales side,
Yeah.
just to make numbers look. I mean, and so a lot of people that have been laid off at big companies, whether it's Microsoft or Google, because they have been too, they're like, "I'm done with big companies. Let's try to, I'm tired of being a number." Now, the problem becomes with that. A lot of small companies, like, "I don't need somebody from a big company. I need somebody that's done it all," because they feel like they've had this big team of support around them. So you find small business owners or mid-sized business owners like, why would they want to come work for me when they worked at Microsoft or Google? So that's what the beauty of working with recruiters. We can find out. Like if somebody just applies, you can't ask some of those questions. So we can be the ends. And I do ask that question, like, why are you going to go from like, okay, I went from Xerox, I mean, I don't know how big that is, to a 4-person company at Accent because, that's what I wanted. So we have a lot of really good questions we can ask as to why are you even, is it because you just need a job and you're gonna be looking again to go to Amazon so that's kind of been so it's interesting to see because you really have to make sure if you're going from a big, small company, or if you wanna, like, federal government to, like, what's the reason? And if it's just for a job, a lot of employers are gonna, like, I don't wanna train somebody, spend the money, and then 6 months later, they're going down. And we're seeing a lot of people from a wage standpoint, there was a big influx of people were getting paid a lot of money. I mean, because of, and not the people who deserve it, but, we all know that people were probably overpaid. And so what happens is that they were, people are willing to take a step back, but then employers are like, well, are they gonna be silently looking for that 100,000 when I'm paying them 70? And so, there's no guarantee. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball on any of it, so.
It's so true what you said too, because I went from working for a big company to coming to a nonprofit like the BBB. And so like sometimes Barry and I will talk to each other and be like, you're really like hung up on the details. And I'm like, yeah, because someone else was always taking care of the details for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important that actually was because so many things fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
If there isn't that one person that's paying attention to that detail to make sure that everyone else is being held accountable for it.
You're exactly right. And it is tough to go from where you have a big team to support and to then end up.
So on an opposite standpoint, do you ever have businesses reach out for, say, the unknown? And what I mean by that is somebody that they've never looked at before that has no experience. Say, like you were talking about, going from a big company, they know a lot about, say, this certain subject. So of course we want them on their team, but why would they want to choose us from a big business to a small business? So does the business ever say, okay, well, we would just want to train someone new, fresh, and I want them to have no experience.
Yes, we do. And I'll tell you more on the sales side of that because let's face it, and we have always, but part of my job is to educate my clients on why you don't want this hire, or why you do, like you think you want this, but maybe you need to look at this profile. And a great example of that would be you have somebody selling the exact same product for your competitor. And so why do they want to leave said competitor? Like, and what you end up with, in my mind, a lot of times it's not a steadfast rule, but you get some people's bad habits because your competitor is not. So yes, I think sometimes I'll say, hey, if they can do this particular skill, I don't care where they did, then I can train them my product or my service. So yeah, we do. And I do think it's sometimes when you want this needle in a haystack, unless you're a nuclear engineer, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But we do see it. And I oftentimes say, let's get creative. Let's look at the top profile, like, hey, this is your wish list. And we all know that they're never gonna find that person. Then like, give me your nice to haves. And then let's look at somebody that, hey, if I come across this personality trait, do you think this would fit in?
Yeah.
So it's a great way to be able to, because they don't know what they don't know. They've had somebody successful in this role, and it's just educating them on, hey, we've had this success story. Have you ever thought about this? And a lot of times they're like, hey, thanks for that. Maybe it'll work.
So, and leading into that, because I'll just say, I worked for Cisco.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and we did like 7 weeks training that we had to do, and it was the Ritz-Carlton training.
Right.
We all had to go through it. It was phenomenal. They do a wonderful job with it. And they really are like.
And you work for Cisco, right? Like food. Okay.
Yeah, Cisco Foods. And there was like this ongoing word on the street with other like sales reps that why would other food companies train their employees when they would just take a Cisco rep? And because Cisco already did all the training for them. And so that kind of like was a massive light bulb for me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Also like, that's so not okay. This company invested all of this time in you.
It does happen. So Xerox is another example. So there are a few companies on the sales side. Let's just say that that they have been trained by the white glove, and Xerox is one of them. Paychex, ADPs. There's some really good and nationally recognized training programs, and so and I will not say I'm not guilty of it, like say, hey, have you ever thought about going after this particular company?
Yeah.
Because they have had phenomenal training. So you don't need to train them on the sales part. Now you just need to train them on the, and I, come from the Xerox world, I know because I was trained like that. And I still, whether for better or worse, I've done a different sales training since. So it's been a long time, but, I knew what I was doing because Xerox spent a lot of money and invested. But I do think some of those companies like the Cisco or Xerox, they realize because the job is hard, it's a
Right.
grind, that they're never,
Oh.
yeah, they're expected, if they get 2 or 3 years out of somebody, to go, right? It's like,
100%.
it's a gold mine. So I think that's what's interesting is a lot of these smaller mid-sized companies, because they don't have the bandwidth
Right.
to do a lot of this training. So if they can get trained by a big company, and not to not big companies, because I mean, we need them all, we need all of it. But they have the bandwidth to train and to invest. And so we take that skill set and we move it to a small company. And so it works, I think.
Now, for those that are just joining the market, because we've noticed there's also been this trend of like, oh, your degree is basically worthless. Like
Right.
everyone's
I'm afraid of the American government, guys. So
Right.
like, they're not in
They're
recruitment
like, oh my
companies.
gosh, your degree's worthless. Like I broadcast journalism major,
Right.
but I did like a total 360 when it came to mine. Not because it was intentional though. And so that kind of leads me up to this question. Let's say somebody has a degree, but they're really joining the job market and it's hard right now to find.
It is.
And they're like, okay, well, maybe I should venture out to trying something new, totally unrelated to my degree. What advice do you have for that person when they're looking for something?
I think to be open-minded is probably number one because, and and I don't know if it's the university, whatever the school, whatever education they got, are telling them they can go get all this, and they're also putting very unrealistic comp expectations in their heads. So I feel like to be open-minded and realize that you might have to take this job to get somewhere else. But as much as you can do to try to, whether it's internships, whether even, 'cause even you can still after you graduate, go get an unpaid internship, get some
Oh, yeah.
experience. I think that is key. Also, and this is really for everybody, if you know you really want to go work in this industry or for this company, start following them on LinkedIn, start engaging in their posts. I mean, you've got to set yourself apart because, AI, for better or worse, I mean, it was bad applying online to them. I've called it the black hole for 16 years because you just don't, well, and but there are many, many reasons for it. That's a whole nother podcast. But I think that the reason you apply and then if not getting a live person until you made it like 3 rounds past, whoever. So I think finding a way to set yourself apart, is really, really key. And that probably is engaging, like using LinkedIn or whatever medium as a information gatherer.
Right.
Like this is the hiring manager that I need to talk to, and then finding a way to, whether you're emailing them, that's probably not the best way, but following them on social and start engaging in them. So then if you reach out like, hey, I recognize the name, I think that's probably key too, because you've got to find a way to set yourself apart.
I have to agree with that. When I applied to this role, it was supposed to be marketing. And the only reason I applied for it was one, because Barry convinced me. And two,
He's very convincing.
It is very convincing.
and then the second reason was because I was like, okay, I didn't study marketing in school, but I think it's relatively close enough to that PR world, to that journalism world, that I think I can maneuver my way through it enough to get to where I want to be in the future, career-wise. It ended up being such a surprise to me that I did so much more of what I actually studied in this role than not, in addition to learning so much.
Right.
So that's kind of like,
And I know, and I agree. And I was just talking to a candidate, and she's amazing. She was like a law office administrator. She has a degree in accounting and in human resources. And I had a director of human resources role for a local company here. And she was like, "But I can't do that. I'm not qualified." And like I needed to convince her. Like I needed to convince her. I'm like, hold on, she probably never would have applied had I not. And she is so qualified. And I think this is worth saying too, is that the way we present candidates, I think, is somewhat unique. We present with a video. And so, because I don't think the resume tells the whole story, doesn't show any. And so that way, if if you like, hey, I don't have any of this, but this is why I think I'm qualified, you can hear in your voice, you can't write that on a resume, cover letters, you read those anymore,
Very
right?
true.
So our clients love it because most of my clients are traveling and they just put it on and listen to somebody talk and they're like, oh my God, I never would have thought this way. If you would have just sent me the resume, Brooke, I would never have interviewed them. And it also gives the candidate a time to talk about themselves. So
Yeah.
I think maybe, we've been doing it steadfast since COVID. And I maybe had a handful of times where someone's been like, why did you send me that video? I probably would have interviewed them had you not sent it. But at the end of the day, that wastes nobody's, right.
Right.
Then if they realize from that personality that they were never gonna hire, then I didn't waste anybody's time.
That's actually, I have to agree with that because sometimes you just know right off the bat that you're not gonna
Yeah,
fly.
yeah,
The
exactly.
communication's probably not gonna be well. So you did do them a favor on
Exactly.
both ends.
On both ends, yeah, because God, and we have to remember, candidates are so picky right now, so, and I have to educate my clients all the time, it is not 2010 where you called all the shots. You really have to sell them as
Right.
much as.
It is about selling yourself as a
As a company,
business.
and right, and so I have a pretty large GC, general contracting firm here. They have an amazing culture, and they follow EOS, and they have really great core values. But nobody knows it, and I mean, yeah, and so my suggestion was the owner needs to do a video and get on, and because people are looking for that. So the more the owner or whoever the manager can get out there and whether it's through video or podcast to explain the culture, I think that is key because they're competing. I mean, and I say a lot with my trades because let's face it, there are not enough roofers, electricians, plumbers, what have you, and people are fighting for the same group of people. They're taking one from one to the other. And the only way to set yourself apart, because there are some bad, there's some bad eggs in the trades.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
the more you can set yourself apart there, and they're like, what? You get this master electrician, I want him to go on video. He's like, absolutely not. So we have to do some workarounds. But it really does. I think the more you can be present and show, I was talking to a friend of mine who's really big into nonprofit. I do a lot of nonprofit work and I love them. But to show like how you give back to the community, and because it's becoming more and more important, especially to the generations of not my generation,
Not mine either.
but I mean, it is important. And if you can show, if you've got show a volunteer day, or we were just on a call and one of the girls in my group, it was a manager for a bank, and so they're giving her a day off for volunteering, like something like that is, even though it might seem silly, is a big attraction.
It is a big deal. It's something that we talk about here often too, because so many people want to have the time to volunteer
And they don't.
and they just don't. And you're like, oh, well, you can always do it on the weekend. That's true, but I feel like so many other things that you say
on the weekend. Exactly. And I mean, I call my own shots, obviously, but so I can volunteer, but I mean, that doesn't make me a lot of money. My husband's like, all this volunteer stuff is great, but paycheck? And I'm like, it fills my heart. He's like, but it doesn't pay our mortgage. But no, I mean, so you have to find a happy medium. But for somebody who's like, she wants to do all this volunteer, she's like, well, I might have to take PTO, and I feel to myself like, that's not right either. I mean, yes, you shouldn't take a day off a week to go volunteer, but just little things like that and show, I think companies really should I highly recommend people going out and companies really embracing what their culture is and things people don't see besides this is the dollar amount I'm gonna pay you and this, that, and the other. Because you know as well as I do, people are looking on Glassdoor or what have you, and the only thing that's there is black. That's
It's just like when you go and you look at some reviews, like everyone that's gonna go post a review, it's either gonna be one extreme or the other. It's gonna be a really good extreme or a really bad.
There's
no happy medium.
Right.
Exactly. So that's just some suggestions to navigate this market, but.
I love it. And how can people get in contact?
They can get in touch with me. So I'm actually going to say, I'm going to give my cell phone number because I mean, I am out and about all the time. So, and I check, I have voicemails at work and I probably not check them at all. And my voicemail is probably full right now too. But my goal today is to get clean out this voicemail. But no, my cell phone, which is the best, probably text is the best, is 804-814-7710. Our website is Accent, ACCENT, Recruit, RECRUIT I mean, how many times do you think I've said that over 16 years? And then, my email is bhall, so BHALL, and accentrecruit.com. So any of those ways are probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
Perfect.
And I'm on LinkedIn too, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna have your socials and all your information
Okay, good.
in the description box. So if you guys are watching on our YouTube channel, BBB Central VA, check the description box for Brooke's information. And of course, like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. It really helps the algorithm out. And if you're listening on our podcast audio version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or RSS.com, please make sure to share it out and like us and follow us.
So thank you, ladies, so much. This has been great. I'm glad we were able to do this today. And I'll
Thank
be
you
back
for letting
whenever
me
you want.
join.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.